Mission 68 broadcast where we serve justice, love mercy.
And walk humbly.
Yes, we do. How's everybody doing today? This is going live on September 4th, Wednesday. Yeah, we've got some interesting news today. Today on the show, we're going to be going over some new legislation. The doctors grappling with how to save women's lives over new law, as well as the climate-driven displacement will be the topics of today. But first, we're going to go over our MICA news of some of our important MICA dates for the local community, Sulphur, Lake Charles, Southwest Louisiana in general. We have the community meal September 15th from 5 to 7. It's going to be pulled pork sandwiches. DW's cooking them. He normally does a pretty good job. I've had him before. Pretty excited for that one, actually, because pulled pork's pretty good. Yeah, this one's kind of a bigger one. Health and Environment Summit. That's going to be September 28th. You need to register by September 21st. That's essentially going to be a bunch of local environmentalist groups, some nonprofits. MICA 68 is going to be there. We're just going to be getting together, going over some info, some educating. Me and Jackson are going to be there. We're going to be conducting interviews with some people, some of the head people of the organization, so that we can get that out to y'all. Do a little bit more educating on that. It's mostly going to be like climate change, hurricane, like since that's like our area. I think it's going to be related to mostly Louisiana. And then the day before that, September 27th, is going to be the family movie night. That's at 6:30 at the Henning United Methodist Church Family Life Center. Henning United Methodist Church Family Life Center. Yes, at 6:30 we're giving out popcorn, snacks, beverages, and it's going to be Avatar: Way of Water. That's the movie. I don't think there's any other MICA news for today. And we're going to go ahead and jump into some big stuff today. Actually, first I want to mention that we, for the time being, are switching to a Monday, Wednesday, Friday format.
Yeah.
This is so that we can kind of make sure that the shows that we're putting out are higher quality, so that we make sure that we have enough information to actually record on. And it gives me and Jackson a little bit of time, because Jackson's a full-time worker. I'm a full-time college student, and I work. Excuse me. So we kind of we're still getting our bearings. So Monday, Wednesday, Friday is going to be a little bit easier for us. We might start pumping out more a little bit later.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on to the climate-driven displacement. This was Grist. Grist articles did it on this. Is where we're getting this information from. If you want to go look at it yourself. One of the journalists in the article actually referred to Lake Charles as the most unfortunate city in the United States. This was following the information on. First of all, it was COVID, so that was a pandemic that hit everybody. But then we got hit with Laura and then Delta, and then experienced a few other environmental catastrophes after that. There were floods and freezes all in the same year. And some good news about this is there were millions of dollars poured into aiding Lake Charles, which is good because now we seem to be getting into a recovery, where our revenues are increasing over our expenses for the parish. So that's pretty good news, but unfortunately, we also are going to have to cover some of the implications and effects that maybe aren't so well known from Laura and Delta.
And how all of that relates to the U.S. Census.
Yes, and how it's tied back to the census. So Lake Charles permanently lost about 7% of its population, which is about 5,000 people on the low. That's a low estimate, I believe. Yeah, likely higher, and that's higher than any other U.S. city. It was originally sparked by COVID, but then Laura and Delta
exacerbated it heavily.
Yes. They left to larger cities like New Orleans or Houston. They're still having some trouble finding where exactly everyone went. Because we can get into that in a second when we talk about the census. Well, no, we should talk about it right now. So yeah, do you want to take that part?
What is specifically?
Just the how the Calcasieu wasn't filling out the census, the Louisiana specifically, but then more so Calcasieu.
Yeah. Um, I mean, it was a combination of factors. I know, you know, coming out of the hurricanes and COVID, there was a lot of people who were unavailable to participate in the census because of anything else they had going on in their lives. So, Calcasieu Parish was the lowest self-reported census turnout like district in the entire country, I believe.
Yeah, because
Or no,
Louisiana.
Louisiana was the lowest participating state in the country, and Calcasieu Parish was one of the lowest participating counties like in the country.
Yeah. So yeah, by transitive property. Uh, yeah. So then I think. Do you want to move on to opinion?
Yeah, we can do opinions.
Yeah. So this is a new thing that we're doing too. This is our me and Jackson's opinions, and it is not affiliated with or representative of anything that Micah 6.8 has to say, as it is a nonprofit and cannot state certain things. Me and Jackson, this is an expression of a community opinion. The community, through me and Jackson, a part of the community.
Yeah.
So we'll be doing a little bit of opinion now. So the the loss of people, it comes with some consequences. It affects district lines, congressional representation, and state and federal source distribution. So essentially, that there being less people in the census, reported in the census, is going to lead to less federal and state aid in our area. And this is something that goes into deeper issues, because the reason that a lot of people are leaving is because the only people who can actually come back and rebuild are typically wealthy people,
More specifically, the homeowning class.
homeowning class, typically white people. So these effects disproportionately affected black communities. And there was not as much relief. There's still people recovering from Laura and Delta today in lower income communities.
And the situation just isn't really getting better. The article mentions that a lot of predominantly black areas in southern Lake Charles are essentially being evacuated slowly by those who lived there and chose to come back. They were picking rental spaces further and further north. So it's causing the area to be even less populated and and by it not being as populous, it's only going to get less and less attention from the local governments.
Yeah. On top of that, it's pretty easy to understand. I would think that the people who did return and could build houses, of course, doing so because that they had wealth, and the black community already being unaffected or affected by poverty and more poor conditions. When they come back, they're the renters, people who had who own property. Obviously, that was destroyed. They just chose not to fix the property, which people lived in. Um,
So they had nothing to come back to, and it also exacerbated the already pretty terrible housing market that we have in the area.
yeah, and what was it about the police jury? Was it the police jury, or what was it that it had to be a 4-3? Um,
Yeah, it had something to do with the police jury districting of the city of Lake Charles. Uh, there was because of the population shifts happening within the city itself, mainly the migration of black communities from the south further north is causing some demographical shifts within the districts. And some people are harping on that because it is causing the police jury to lose its 4-3 white representation majority.
it's causing them to lose.
Yeah.
Oh,
If enough black people were to move into, I believe it's District 4, the swing seat of the jury, um, there will be less of a chance for the more wealthy and predominantly white districts to always have the majority.
yeah, that's something that what's something that bothers me specifically about it is how transparent it is. That things
Yeah,
that
how just cut and dry they talk about it. It's kind of uh it's a little I'd say it's appalling.
it's pretty appalling. I think that that there's no one's hiding that they're gerrymandering the districts this way, and that they even report on it. They're like, yeah, the reason they're doing this is so that the swing seat is a white representative, who wouldn't best represent probably the most impacted community, the people who probably need the most representation.
Mhm. I think the like exact quote was that they maintain the white or not this part of the quote is not a direct, but the reason that the white majority is maintained was, I believe the quote was, because that is how they keep the city running or something like that. Or that's how they are able to make sure that the city is run the way that they want it to be.
Well, yeah, that's. I mean, no,
Something
they
along those
reinstate
lines.
themselves. I mean, obviously they wouldn't design it to where they don't get it, but that's not the point. The point being is that the people who are affected by the environmental changes, when two hurricanes hit us, and the black
Yeah, they
communities, the
have
people they have the
no
least
say.
representation and they have the least aid because they're not going to come. Unless you're a wealthy black man or a black woman, the majority of black people in Lake Charles and Sulphur community are poorer than white people. That's just true. They're not going to come back and build another house. The most of them are renters. They're the people who need more representation than anything else. I mean, it's a little disingenuous. I would say it's pretty upsetting. I think that is definitely a place
Hmm.
to stake your frustrations and passion in, um, to speak out,
Yeah.
because
And
that's
it's only going to get worse as they continue to have to leave due to their financial situations being so like dire.
well, that's the thing is that they can't even some can't even leave. It takes money to leave.
Yeah.
So
Well, there's a middle line where some people have enough money to leave, and there's some people that are so poor that they just have to stick with what they have left here.
and I don't think that that's anyone who would be listening to this right now, regardless of what where you stand, would have would hold such an opinion that these people shouldn't be helped or
Yeah.
represented or cared for. But they're not being cared for. So I mean, I just would like to ask people: are these the representatives that we want in Calcasieu Parish in Louisiana? Is this the type of action we want to see? Do we really want to be seeing nonprofits and charity work be the staple, and or should our government be the ones taking care of our civilians, being taken care of after hurricane disaster or any climate disasters? The government should be the first ones to step in and provide aid for anybody, not just the people that they represent, and not just for the people who are going to reinstate them into office, into local office. That's absurd, and I don't think. I mean, I don't even think many people would dissent from that. Which is why we're
Yeah.
talking. Why we're talking about it today is that we need to stir up passion about this. We need to be upset about it because I know a bunch of people who would agree with me, and they just don't.
Hmm.
They're not involved with politics is the most part because it's a pretty scary field to start talking in. Um, but it needs to be said because most people think. I feel like most people think this way.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I don't think that. Do you want to say anything else about that?
I mean, uh, sort of adding on to what you're saying, where most people wouldn't really disagree with, what we're saying here is it's just a consequence of a lack of like it's like the reason that we decided to do stuff like this is because so many of the problems that communities like ours face is there's just a lack of information and there are people within the community who benefit from the broader majority being uninformed. And we just need to have everyone's eyes open to that reality so that we can actually enact meaningful change together.
Yeah, just like Miss Cindy was saying the other day, that even if my neighbor is someone who maybe will align conservative, while I personally wouldn't call myself that, it's aligning ourselves on the issues that we both agree on and working together and coming together as a community. Because I know that, especially in Louisiana, in our part of Louisiana together, I feel like being neighborly, even in Southern culture, is commonly expressed here, that you should be neighborly, and it's a Christian sentiment too, to
Yeah.
to be neighborly and to love thy neighbor. Coming together, we should stand united on these issues, and I think that one of the best ways to do that is through political action. And I just don't think I see enough of that around here, especially with how the devastating climate issues that Lake Charles faces more than any other city in the United States,
Like,
really.
just think how absolutely insane it is that those like hurricanes happened what like 3 4 years ago
Four
now,
years, yeah,
and there are still tarps up. That is ridiculous.
that's insane.
We are a first world nation, and there are people who are living in conditions worse than some third world countries just because of local policy decisions.
Just
That's
because of a few
insane.
representatives who are not doing who are obviously not
Who are
doing
not acting in the best interest of their constituents
of the people, yes,
at
of the
all.
people who put I mean, let's be real. How many people actually probably voted to put them there? Probably not a lot. Which is why we need to start doing that. I mean, this is what we need to do. We need to put awareness to stuff like this. I mean, especially. I mean, I hate to harp on this, but Lake Charles is one of the most affected cities because of climate, and nobody here is actually doing anything for policy wise, for legislation wise, to even help to do anything about it
If anything, they're
to an
doing
effective
the exact
degree.
opposite by enabling the chemical plant industry.
Yes, and then but to maybe change it to a more positive tone, because I don't want to just harp and harp. Um, I mean, we can do something though, which is why I want to express to anyone living in Lake Charles, because I'm in Lake Charles right now. Jackson's in Sulphur. We want to get together on these things. And this is why we're trying to rile up a community, specifically a local community, a Southwest Louisiana community, where people you're hearing this, you're hearing, hey, I don't want my neighbor to be living under a tarp for 4 years because of hurricane damage that's caused. Well, hurricanes always came through, but more violent hurricanes that are coming through because of global warming. I want my neighbor to eat, to be able to eat, and to have a roof over their head. I think that we can rally behind that. I really think we can. All right. I think it's time for the next story.
Yeah.
This one we might even get a little bit more upset about, because this one is crazy. This one is off the walls. I don't even. Oh my god. So doctors have been voicing extreme concerns over new legislation passed by Governor Landry. So you might be asking, Brady, what's so crazy? What exactly was the legislation that was passed? Um, how do I say this drug again, Jackson?
Misoprostol.
Misoprostol, which is prescribed for labor emergencies, miscarriage treatment, labor induction, or IUD insertions, has been rescheduled as a controlled dangerous substance. Um, Essentially because, and there seems to be not much other justification than the fact that it's related and used for abortion. So it was targeted by our overwhelmingly Republican um,
Legislatures.
legislatures. Yes. Um, so the guys who maybe possibly went to school for this and do this every single day, um, were like, yeah, I'm scared because this could lead to preventable deaths doing this. Um,
And that's because misoprostol is not just used in these. Uh, excuse me. Sorry about that. it's like Brady was saying that misoprostol, it's not even its primary use is for these medicated abortions. Like it is far more important in uh blood loss related to like post-birth situations.
Then
Like
it
that is its
yes,
main purpose.
then it is abortion at all.
And by having it be rescheduled to a dangerous controlled substance, it is significantly harder for medical staff at hospitals to have it on hand. They almost all of them have some sort of policy where they have to have it brought in uh, either through the in-house pharmacy, or if it's a more rural hospital, they need to have it um, prescribed from an outhouse pharmacy. And the biggest problem with that is that um, these blood loss situations from post birth uh, are very, very time sensitive. And there's been instances wherein nurses have reported needing to wait almost 45 minutes to get a hold of misoprostol. And that's before it's even been classified as a controlled substance. So some of these cases in which it's going to be medically necessary, they don't have 45 minutes to wait. They will die.
Yeah, and then there's specifically complicated cases as well. Like, it's typically used for patients with high blood pressure. It's something that could affect them. And there are other options. So that there are other options. However, they don't work on most patients. So there's really no reason. It's like throwing a wrench in the road for no reason. It's making it harder than it has to be. As a matter of fact, the governor signed the legislation despite 200 doctors, 100 doctors signing a letter against the measure. These are the these are the people who would, I feel like, would know more than anyone else whether or not this is an important drug to be used in a hospital. Uh, like, well, that's the more factual part. Now I think we can start expressing our conversation about it, Jackson.
Yeah. All right. Here comes opinion
All
time.
right, opinion time. Yeah. So this is disgusting. Um,
Absolutely horrendous.
um,
Like inexcusably like evil.
it's like comic book villain evil. Like I feel like they
Like
saw.
there is so much needless cruelty tacked on to this legislation. The biggest part for me that really illustrates that this is just like an act of cruelty is that once the legislation was passed, 50 doctors wrote a note to Louisiana's attorney, or not attorney general, surgeon general, asking for clarification on what they are supposed to do in these strenuous circumstances that we've been talking about. And at least as of Monday, they have been refused an answer. So these problems that are arising because of this conservative legislation, they are not even not being addressed. They are being completely dismissed. So that leads to one of two conclusions. Either these problems were discovered in the process of creating this legislation and they were completely thrown out the window, do not care, or they were so careless with the writing of this legislation that none of these circumstances came to mind. I don't know which one is more infuriating, in my opinion.
I just think it's almost unbelievable because it's like, to me it's like if a scientist told me something that was like for science, I'd be like, hell yeah, science. If a doctor was like, yeah, this medicine's going to make you feel better, I'd be like, well, I didn't go to medical school. So why are the legislators acting like they're doctors? These are the last people I want meddling in the doctor's office. These guys, what do the legislators know about what drugs need to be on the controlled dangerous substance list?
I don't know about you, but I would trust several hundred doctors before a single governor when it comes to female like medical advice.
I mean, I was trying to play both sides in my head before this to maybe understand or like get some leverage as to maybe why they would think that, but I just don't think that there's any other reason that they would do it besides the sentiment that it's related to abortion and there's an abortion ban in Louisiana. So they're like, yeah, this has to do with abortion. So put it on the controlled dangerous substance list. I genuinely think it was negligent.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like,
Yeah, like they
there,
just
there's they either knew about these risks and didn't care about the women who were going to die because of this, or they were so quick to just ban every possible way to get an abortion that they didn't even think about these circumstances.
yeah, and then to reiterate what I already had mentioned, are these like seriously like I know like I we come like me and Jackson and here we're obviously not a right wing opinion, but even like my granddad or my most Republican friend, if I told like I feel like I would talk to them about this, they'd be like, that's crazy. That's like the Joker from Batman would have a problem with this. Like he would be like, yeah, Batman, that's kind of messed up. What about Louisiana having the most women mortality or what is it more or maternal
Yeah,
deaths?
maternal. Yeah,
Yes, like we already have the highest. Are we trying to get a high score? I feel like that's what they're trying to do. That's crazy. Like, are these seriously the people that you want representing you? Like, do these people have the like? Is it democratic? What percentage of people from Louisiana were like, yes, this is awesome. This is awesome. I think it would just be so cool if we just don't listen to doctors and women bleed out and die. That would be probably the best thing to happen, I think, personally. I would vote for that. Nobody would say that. What are these people doing? Like this is not our voice. This is not my voice. For
hmm
sure. I don't feel represented by this. I feel like I'm living in
and
a dystopia.
yeah, it's like you're saying, like even if you are like a more conservative minded person and you are like a pro-choice individual, the the amount of lives lost due to the lack of accessibility to this drug, I don't think will the risks being added to the medical field by this change will not be worth the amount of lives it saved from not using this medication as a means of abortion. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, yes. And then I think I mean I want to specifically mention that that doctors they don't want to be pessimistic about it. I mean obviously it's terrible. It's not going to be like the Grim Reaper comes out and starts pulling all the women who have birth under because there are other measures to take. It's just like it's like
Mhm.
why not use the most effective, reliable,
Yeah, this is just
safe.
adding like unnecessary risk, especially for poorer communities, like what was mentioned in the article, where rural hospitals are going to have a much harder time getting a hold of misoprostol whenever it's necessary because they don't have in-house pharmacies. They have to do. Uh, the article had mentioned that one of the interviewed doctors' patients had to drive for hours to a different pharmacy because they refused to prescribe misoprostol at a local pharmacy.
I mean, that's just I don't understand how much crazier it can get. I mean, because even if where you stand on abortion, which is like a completely like almost unrelated issue to this, I feel like it's just getting looped in. Like
hmm
you can't actually like I can't fathom like actually like thinking that. But we're almost at 30 minutes, so I want to wrap up.
Okay.
This article was by LA Illuminator. No, we really have to like finish. We're at 29 minutes right
Yeah.
now. Okay. Sorry to cut off so quick. I wasn't paying attention at the time.
It's
Bye,
fine.
guys.
Bye.
Bye. We'll see you Friday.
Yeah.